homeschooling family of 2 medical special needs kids who also happen to be adopted. We do lots of homeschool mom type videos. It also includes medical and special needs and adoption. So if you are interested in those things, go ahead and hit subscribe and like my channel. Today I wanted to talk about my 10 tips for homeschooling a medical special needs child. Now these are just mine, things that we do, things that I found that have helped us. They are not necessarily what I'm saying every family has to do. So you do you, we do us, and we'll all be good. I just thought I would share a little bit of things that have helped us. Okay, so tip number 1 is to don't plan. And that goes against everything that I am. I am a planner by nature. I plan everything. When my family hates when we go on vacation because I plan every single minute of it. But that's what was causing me so much stress, is because I would always plan several weeks to months in advance of what we were going to do and on what days, and things happen. Life happens. And kids get sick. We have to go to the hospital. We have unexpected specialists that want to see us. Life happens. And so what would happen is work would get moved from one day to the next, and then something else would happen, and then you're 2 days behind, and then 3, and then 4. And I was becoming super stressed because on paper we were so far behind, and I was wanting to get caught up. So I would have the kids do extra work, and it was just so stressful for all of us. So what I do this year, I started probably the end of last year, I think so, because we were so far behind then. But what I do is I have a general plan of what we're going to do. Like for the year, I know how I want things to go, but I don't set dates. I know that when we finish this book, we're going to move on to this book. And then when we finish this, we're going to move on to this. And that's just my general plan I keep in my head, or just by, having them stacked, or just however. But I don't write any of that down. On my plan book, I only write down what we have done. So only things that have already been completed. It's always done after the fact. And the kids' goal cards, I only do 1 day in advance. That way, if something was to happen, if someone were to get sick, if we would have to make a trip somewhere for some reason, it's not a big deal. We don't have to erase things. We don't have to move things around. We just move it down to the next day. That's all we got to do. And that has been working out so much better. There has been so much less stress. The kids aren't stressed. I'm not asking them to do more than they should in a day. I'm less worried about not being where we need to be. Tip number 2, write everything down. In our state, they require us to keep hours. And what has happened in the past is I would, think, I'll write that down later, and I forget. And, I know that we have a lot more hours than what I write down, but I can't remember them for sure, and so I just don't feel comfortable writing it down. So what happens is by the end of the year, we're running low on hours, and we have to cram in a lot of work at the end of the year just to meet our hours. So this year, what I've been doing, I've been extremely diligent about writing everything down. And we have a lot more hours than we thought we would, just because I write down everything that we do. And that includes, make sure you count everything that could count for school, including when you go to the doctor's office, if they happen to have educational charts on their walls and you guys spend, all your waiting room time or your time waiting in the room talking about those charts, digestive system, respiratory systems, all these other things, count that. It counts. They are learning. You are teaching. might as well take advantage of the time. Tip number 3 is to school year round. Now, I know this doesn't work for everyone, but for us, we've noticed that by spreading the school term over the course of the whole year, it takes less pressure off getting the entire, on getting every day done. And so when we need a day off, we can take one. And when life gets crazy, we can take a break. And we've noticed that when, and I've noticed that my kids can't handle really long breaks. They just don't retain information as well, and they have a much harder time getting back into the routine. So if we just never stop, it's really easy to start back up again, so to say. Tip number 4 is to read and write for them. Now, obviously, this comes after they have gained the ability to do that, but and of course, there's still times where it's required in whatever they're doing, but for things that it's not necessarily part of the lesson, just do it for them, and it takes the pressure off of them and takes the battle away. And I noticed that my extremely reluctant reader, who was a late reader, he never read for pleasure. He would fight every chance that he had about reading. He did not want to read at all. Once I took the mandatory reading away, making him read his schoolwork, making him write his schoolwork, once I took that away, he now picks up a book and reads for fun. He now wants to read some of his schoolwork passages. He doesn't read the whole thing, but he'll read 1 or 2 paragraphs. He likes to write and draw stories, or draw and write stories. I have to give him a limit of reading time in the evening, otherwise he'll read all night long. So just by taking that pressure away, by taking the mandatory part of it away, it allowed for him to enjoy it. And I would so much rather have a child who reads for enjoyment than because they have to. And now my daughter, she's still in the learning phase, the gaining the ability of reading, so she is required to read a little bit more. But I have ones where I read for her too, and it just takes pressure off. She's much calmer, much less agitated when we can just take those times for me to read to her. Tip number 5 is to set a timer. And this can go either way. Some kids, it makes it worse. Some kids, it makes it better. For my kids, at least right now in this season, I set a timer. Usually, I give them a time frame that's a little longer than what I think is the appropriate amount of time for them to complete an assignment. Usually about 10 minutes a page, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on what's on those pages, obviously. But I set the timer, and I start the timer as soon as I call them to start their work. So if they don't come right away, if they don't focus, don't get there and dawdle, that's on them. And if the timer goes off before they're done with their work, then they have to stop what they're doing, and they will have homework later in the evening after everything else is done, when they would normally be playing. Now, literally, I have, neither of my children have ever had to do this. The timer is motivation enough for them. It keeps them focused. We've never had to enforce it because they've never went over their time. So now, obviously, like I said, this can go either way. Some kids, it's more of a stressor. So if that's the case, you just do what's best for your kids. For my kids right now, it's working. So this is something that we're doing. Tip number 6 is to take breaks. Lots of breaks. The way I do our school is I work with one child, and then I'll work with the other child, and then I take a break for myself. And so they get, they get a break alone, and then a break together, and then I just keep going, keep alternating children, till the school day is completed. we do our together subjects first thing in the morning and at the end of the day. So it kind of bookends the day. We start together and we end together, and it just kind of makes the whole day feel complete. Tip number 7 is to make homeschooling my children my priority. I was going crazy trying to school the kids, keep the house clean, do everything I needed to do, trying to be all things to all people, and it just wasn't working. So I had to step back and realize that that I may be a stay-at-home mom, but I have a job, and my job is to teach my children. And for this season, that's what it is. So I have a list of daily chores that I try to get done in a day during my mom breaks. I set a timer and I don't go over it. If things don't get done, they don't get done, and we just move it on to the next day. And at the end of the week, if there's a bunch of stuff that still needs to be done, we have a family work day and all work together. But during the day, my focus is to teach the kids, and because they can't stay focused if I can't stay focused. Tip number 8 is to have a read aloud day. If we're going to be having a super busy day, or if the kids or myself are not feeling well, then we will just have a day where we just read aloud, where we have our book that we take turns. We do a read aloud book and we take turns picking that one out. We have our Bible devotion and we have our Hero series book. And if we're gonna have a super busy day and gonna be gone, we get those things done and we call that good. We say that we at least got that in, and we'll be happy with that. But if we're not feeling well, what I'll do is we'll just read those over and over again throughout the day as everybody's feeling well. We'll just pick up one of the books and start reading, and that's our school day, and we're getting stuff in, and it works. Tip number 9 is to realize that there's no wrong way to homeschool. Every child is different, every home is different, every situation is different. There is no wrong way. I made myself and my son absolutely crazy his kindergarten year because I was pushing him to read. Because in kindergarten, kids are supposed to learn to read, right? Well, I was pushing and pushing, and he wasn't getting it, and he was hating it, and he was crying, and I was crying, and it just was not good. And finally, a dear friend of mine told me, stop. You're making yourself crazy. You're making him crazy. You're making him hate reading and hate school, and that is such a sad thing. And so I stopped. We still kept going in other subjects. That's where I started reading to him a little bit. We just kept going, and then when I started noticing signs of actually showing an interest in being ready, then he picked it up so much quicker. He was 7 before he started to read. He was in second grade second grade at that time, and but he picked it up so much quicker, and he got it, and he understood it so much quicker. And now he still didn't read for fun right away, but now he does, and now he really enjoys reading. My daughter has to go extremely slow and for new material to sink in. Her brain just does not absorb new things very well. But once she's got it, she's got it. But it may take us 3 years to get through her first grade material, but that's okay. Because as long as we're progressing, as long as we're teaching, as long as we're learning, that's all that really matters. There is no wrong way. And lastly, tip number 10 is to enjoy it. I need to be reminded of this a lot more than I care to admit. But part of the reason that we decide to homeschool is because we enjoy our kids and we like to be around them. Sometimes we just need to take a day off that's not for a doctor's appointment, not for therapy, not for anything we have to do, and just have fun. Just enjoy being together and doing fun things together. And we have to remember that this is just for a season, it's just for a time, and it won't last forever. So while we have it, we need to enjoy it and make it count. So that's my 10 tips for homeschooling a medical special needs child. If you have any other tips, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'd love to hear them. We're always wanting to learn new ways of coping and doing things. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.